Welcome to the F-Tier Nuzlocke, the challenge where I take a handful of the worst Pokemon as my only viable encounters and still try to complete an entire hardcore Nuzlocke. This is the first video posted since the channel hit 5,000 subscribers, and that is insane. Thank you all so much for the support. The channel is also coming up on its 1-year anniversary, which is actually even crazier to me. So much of my life has changed in the last year. It's amazing and heartbreaking all at the same time to see where I was then and compare it to where I am now. This channel has really given me something to put my all into, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. I challenged myself to just try and make one big video a month, and I've been more than successful in that. Who knows where we'll be in another year from now? I'd love to have you all be a part of that journey as I continue to grow, tackle new Nuzlockes, and continue to push the limits of all our favorite challenges. So you should like, subscribe, and stuff to be part of that. Nailed it. Today we will be taking a trek through the Galar region, the only region we haven't yet touched in our F-Tier adventures, and quite possibly may be the final entry in that series. If you missed any of the previous videos tackling the same challenge, the playlist will be linked below so you can binge watch them after this one. Yeah, I know how you new viewers work because I do the exact same thing. So, fun fact, despite my best efforts, there was absolutely no tier list I could find by another creator that actually included all of Generation 8's Pokemon. Most of the ones I found were tier lists from just like a handful of the early reveals, which obviously doesn't really do much for us. And any lists that did exist just didn't really work for one reason or another. So we once again made our own. You'll find the stream where we hodgepodge together our list in the description as well. In it, you'll notice a lot of our usual suspects like Liepard and Xatu, Glalie. So at least we're consistent in our trash picks. But as always, we give just a little bit of bias to Pokemon native to the region, so I'm hoping we'll get to use some fun picks like Ice-Cube or Cramorant, which is why today we will be playing Shield version over Sword, since there's just a few more possible encounters in that version that just don't exist in the other. It's also objectively the worst version of the two, so I suppose that is fitting. In our stream, I realized that there are a lot of not so good Pokemon in these games, like a lot of them. I suppose with the wild area being a thing, they were just trying to fill it in with as many random Pokemon as they could, so I tried to cut down the list during stream, but I wasn't familiar enough with the games without doing any research to know for sure what would be the best possible course of action. I didn't really know how I would handle encounters in the wild area, or where they're found on routes, or, you know, etc, etc. But once I did, I cut out some of the Pokemon I deemed just a notch above the others to really try and pull some garbage out of there. And I went out of my way to ban some of the better Pokemon that we've used in the series already, such as Maractus that we used in White 2, or Abomasnow that we used in Y. I love Seeking though. Fucking love Seeking. I suppose this settles it then. No matter the region, no starter is truly F tier. We start with Grookey anyway because I went to a pre-release recently and met a cool guy there and he said his favorite Pokemon was Rillaboom, and I don't really have any particular reason to pick any one of these starters over the other, so that was good enough for me. Unfortunately, we are forced to ditch our monkey at the first opportunity to catch our first actual encounter, Junkrat the Squavette. This is of course after all the story mumbo jumbo of meeting up with their neighbor Hop, being introduced to his older brother, the region champion Leon, getting lost in the woods, almost getting eaten by the big bad wolf, and running full circle back home like nothing ever happened. Okay, you got me. I don't actually play Pokemon for the plot, okay? If it was interesting, maybe I would. On Route 2, we pick up a second encounter, adding Reaper the Nickit to the team. Neither Greedent nor Thievul are amazing, hence why we get to pick them up at all, but I'm very happy to finally have the excuse to use both because, I'll be honest, they are some of my favorite conceptualized design of any early game Pokemon. At least the base forms are. The evolved forms are a little weird. We are then forced to beat the snot out of Hop to win his brother's favor in order for him to allow us to enter the Pokemon Gym Challenge, which in Galar is apparently not quite as easy to take on as it is in other regions for reasons entirely unknown. Actually, it's probably because of the Dynamaxing. They don't just want any kid to be able to turn their Pokemon gigantic. Yeah, actually, as I'm writing this, that does make a lot of sense. Fair enough, Galar. You win this one. But this is a Pokemon game. We still have at least another hour of story before we're allowed to do anything important. Our train breaks down, which forces two children in the middle of the night to wander aimlessly through the massive wild area. An expanse of land crawling with Pokemon that could literally eat you. So that's cool. As I did with Scarlet and Violet, I'm simply counting the first viable encounter I see as my run-in for that route or area. And I will be splitting the wild area into each of its own individually named sections, since they do technically change the met location of that Pokemon. So that leads us to picking up Sigma the Pidove in Rolling Fields, Hammond the Bunnelby in Dapple Grove, and trying to find but ultimately failing to locate an Elgyem in the Watchtower Ruins. Maybe the weather or time was wrong, I don't know. But our team of 4 is more than enough to press onward with, so on onward we shall press. This is a fantastic time to break out our secret weapon for this challenge, the fact that the game gives you everything in the wild area. Literally everything. Rewards from raids, merchants for trading, random ground items like feathers, berries from trees. There is an absolute plethora of stuff waiting to be found in there that costs you nothing to find except your time. And I'm not even going to give the game that. The most fun part about this is the fact that every TR, or technical record, is available pretty much right from the start. Do note that I am excluding best I can any items that are DLC exclusive, as I am only playing the base game here, but if I make a mistake, then whoops. And did you know that berry trees can apparently give you infinite leftovers? I thought that was pretty nifty. And so did my team, since that's all they held for pretty much the entire playthrough. Moto Stoke is the place to be if you are a gym challenger, of which we apparently are. So we get a fancy jumpsuit and meet all the gym leaders so we can accurately gauge our opposition. And then we're pretty much done here for now, so moving on. This game forces you into quite a few rival fights against Hop and others that I'll just say up front, they're all pretty damn easy. I don't think Hop even uses 5 Pokemon until your final fight against him. So we will check in with them later if or when the difficulty creeps up on us. For now, we'll just ignore him and pull ourselves up to Route 3, where we can find and catch Anna the Gossifleur. Also kind of on this route, or at least on our way north to the first gym, we pass through the Galar Mine, and wouldn't you know it, flying across the bridge is my favorite puffball, Woobat, who we name Echo. And then we exit the mine onto Route 4 and fish ourselves up Bastion the Goldeen, who won't be useful for a while, but you never know when you need a side of fish sticks. Welcome to Turf Field, home of the grass gym and probably nothing else I don't legitimately remember. Gym leader Milo is a fucking dick and forces children into manual labor, hurting his Wooloo before we're even allowed to challenge him. I cannot stress enough, I hate pre-gym puzzles. Gen 7 is the only generation to do them well because trials are a cool concept, but even then, my god, I just hate them with a burning passion. The fact that the fight against the gym leader is not the challenge itself just really irks me the wrong way. Anyway, leaving my anger at the door because I don't have much choice, they strip me down quite literally, we reach script page 3 and are just now able to challenge our first gym leader. Level 20 is our cap for this gym, and that does net us with a few evolutions for Thievul, Diggersby, Eldegoss, which makes things almost too easy. With Stab Snarl and a held Oranberry, Thievul's able to sweep through all of Milo's team and tank hits pretty handily. This is the perfect moment to point out that the gimmick for this region, Dynamaxing, is weird. You can only use it in most gyms and the league, and it is a very powerful mechanic. Quite frankly, from a casual perspective, I don't hate it at all like I do Z moves. But considering that the moves you gain while Dynamaxed are so insanely powerful, the 3-turn limit for the form doesn't really matter when most gyms only use 3 Pokemon anyway. I'm not planning on outright banning the mechanic, but I am going to see how far we can make it without having to tap into that extra power. And at the very least, that does include this first gym. So, badge in hand, we head out to Route 5, beat up some punks blocking the bridge, are gifted a possessed bike and a tranquil evolution for our efforts. Then we have to beat up another punk who is also blocking the bridge, but for very different reasons. Sorry, Hop, but like, didn't we just fight you? Like, before the gym? Like, just a bit ago. Hulbury is home of the next gym, and I'm not sure I pronounced that right, but it is here that we meet personally, very personally, with the league chairman Rose. He seems like a super cool guy that definitely wouldn't go out of his way to unleash hell on Earth and cause the imminent destruction of everyone and everything we hold dear, doesn't he? Another gym trial of some more manual labor to fix the city's plumbing issues, and finally we're allowed to take on the water-type gym leader Nessa. After some more evolving, of course. But truth be told, all we really need for this fight is Anna, because grass very much beats water, and they gave poor Nessa absolutely nothing to combat that weakness. I mean, I get that these first 3 gyms are purely to teach the player about type matchups, but if you know them already, since the series is, you know, going on 30 years old by now, there just is not a point to that. But I digress. Eldegoss is cool, and I'm glad she's getting her time to shine. We meet a newcomer to the challenge circuit, Bede, who I do unfortunately have to mention because he comes up a few more times. And, he's easier than even Hop because his Pokemon are all either Psychic or Fairy type throughout the entire game. There's a good few shared weaknesses there, and since Eldegoss is a special tank, we kinda just let Anna handle him most times. Poor guy runs off almost as soon as he shows up. For actually important things in this cave, we find and catch Venture the Stunfisk. But this isn't just any Stunfisk like the ones we've used before, no sir, this is a Galarian Stunfisk. You know, the physical attacking one that still learns mostly special moves. Yay. Okay, jokes aside, I am a big Galarian Stunfisk fan. Am I the only one who wants a Slowbro-esque evolution to combine Galarian Stunfisk with like Pangoro or something? Like the bear trap on its leg, but it evolves into something. I just think that'd be cool. Hop leads us back out of the cave because he's here now for some reason, and we find a Sudowoodo we name Hanzo. And since we're being directed to circle back to Motostoke anyway, the place where we had our gym challenge opening ceremony or whatever, I decide to keep up the catching streak by going back out into the wild area to pick up Farah the Noctowl as well. A lot of overlap between Noctowl, Swoobat, Unfezant, but they do all have their uses at different points. And this lets us box Sigma for now until we can fully evolve him later. Before we take on the gym challenge, we run into Marnie and her rambunctious group of misfits, the ones that were blocking the bridge earlier, and beat all of them up. Marnie's cool, her fans are weird for being obsessed with a little girl, but they all want a piece of me, and quite frankly, I can't blame them. Kaboo is the fire-type gym leader, and I don't care how his name is pronounced, that's how I'm going to pronounce it, because it sounds like Kaboom. Unfortunately for him, we have a Sudowoodo. We set up Stealth Rocks and then spam Rock Tomb, which, despite being burned, still two-shots both Ninetales and Arcanine. Against the Gigantamaxing Centiskorch, we switch out to Junkrat, who can easily take whatever Kaboo throws at him, in no small part thanks to Cheek Pouch and a Citrus Berry. We can then squash the giant bug with repeated body slams until it falls. And so, after beating the crap out of the first 3 gym leaders, all of them wish us luck on the rest of our supposed adventure, and we head back out into the wild area again to round out our encounters, because now the tutorial part of the game is finally over. Snorunt, Purloin, and Tyrogue join the ranks as Ramatra, Sombra, and Genji, respectively. Anyway, coming up is the designated desert area where we beat Hop up for his lunch money, evolve a fish, a bat, and a cat, and play the worst game of spinning teacups I've ever had the displeasure to be a part of. In fact, I hated this part so much that I won't even get into it. Moving on. Alistair uses ghost types, but otherwise he's nothing special. By leading off with Farah, we can set up multiple Calm Mind boosts. Actually, we just get disabled. Well, one is enough for now. Being a normal type with access to Shadow Ball does have its perks, so we blast through Yamask with ease. Corsola falls too, but not before laying a curse on us. Ghosts really come equipped with all the tricky stuff, don't they? And speaking of that, we can't really afford to get caught up with Mimikyu's disguise, so we swap out to Hammond while the spirit sets up Hone Claws. It does have Slash, which has a high critical hit ratio, but I decide crits aren't real and go for a bulk up anyway. A second Slash misses another crit, and Earthquake breaks the built-in substitute. Next turn, we go for a substitute of our own, but not before being hit with the priority Baby Doll Eyes, which lowers our attack back to neutral. So we set up another bulk up, get a new substitute after the current one breaks, and finally KO the troublesome puppet with a second Earthquake. Having carefully preserved our substitute, we are in the best position possible when Gengar comes in, Gigantamaxes into a Mirror House, and immediately crumbles to our Earthquaking power. 4 badges down. We run into B doing something with an ancient mural, trying to tear it down or something for reasons that I'm almost sure matter? But we beat him up anyway because choice is an illusion, and I have just as much of it in this game as I do in real life. Chairman Rose is here for some reason as well, because the story called for it, I suppose, and he disqualifies Bede from the gym circuit. Dang, that's tough, man. I can't believe we're never gonna see that guy again. What was his name? Bob? Bart? Hold on, it's on the tip of my tongue, I swear. He's gone. Well, I'm sure we'll see him again sometime, unfortunately. We get lost in a forest full of mushrooms I misplaced earlier, whoops, that explains a lot, and come out the other side to fight Grandma Snickerbottom, mistress of quizzes and my newest tormentor. Fairy types are generally very strong, so it's a little confusing how weak this gym is as a whole. We can largely repeat the same strategy as the last gym, letting Farah's Calm Mind boost up our stats, while at the same time benefiting from the random questions the leader asks that also boost our stats. Kinda weird. Wheezing Sludge Bomb does poison us, but leftovers will keep us in the fight in spite of it. After just 3 stat boosts, Psychic more than 1 shots Wheezing, Air Slash 2 shots Togekiss, and Shadow Ball takes out Mawile. Despite our low health, the sheer amount of boost we've gotten between Answers and Calm Mind let us survive a Gigantamax Alcremie's G-Max move by only taking 10 damage. But we can't stay in after the one. Fortunately, Venture has been waiting for his moment and backs the cake into a corner with its steel typing. A couple Earthquakes later and the Puff Pastry falls, granting us a 5th badge. Before we can move forward, we need to start unlocking some of our stronger team members, such as Genji finally gaining to evolve now that the fairies and ghosts are behind us. Both Hitmonlee and Hitmonchan were made to be viable options, so I didn't manipulate the EVs to give us one or the other, I just left it totally up to chance. If we happen to roll Hitmontop, then we would just go catch a new Tyrogue and try again, to be honest. But we roll our legs over into a Hitmonlee. It is a sad day when one of your strongest options is a base 55 HP pure fighting type, but I digress. Ramatra evolves too. He was male, so we get a Glalie again, despite me also trying to allow Frostlass. Alas, they knew she would be too powerful. One day, we run into the champion and his definitely girlfriend Sonia, the professor's daughter, who's been researching the lore of the region because boy howdy does nobody know it. And this rolls over into my biggest issue with the game. It is very clearly a significantly rushed product. And I don't mean the quality or art style or whatever excuse you want to use for one of the highest grossing media franchise in the world looks the way it does, ugly. I mean specifically the fact that there is a developing plot that we as the player never get to see. We're only told about it through other characters who quite literally brush you as the player aside saying, but you don't need to worry about that. Go fight more gyms. And that is the sole reason why I hate these games as much as I do. The entire time we're off doing random gym battles, fulfilling their annoying side quests and gallivanting the region, there's apparently big shit going down everywhere that we are not. Pokemon are randomly Dynamaxing in the wild. That is insane. Let me see it. Let me fight it. And I don't mean those stupid raid dens, yuck, worst thing they ever brought over in a Scarlet and Violet, tell you what. Okay, seriously for a second. There are giant creatures wreaking havoc and destruction, and we're never allowed to see them, let alone fight them. There is a giant mystery surrounding the lore and history of this region and what possible ties it may have to the current situation, and we're only given snippets of the research that somebody else is doing. Like, this game is the most tell don't see of any game ever. If it wasn't Pokemon, it would not have ever gotten a pass. You can just tell their all wasn't put into this, and that's sad because a lot like my issues with Kalos, Galar is a beautiful region with a lot of potential. A bit of that is explored in the DLC, and I actually really do love the Crown Tundra, but it is such a missed opportunity that the base game doesn't touch on more of it. Anyway, if the game itself is telling me not to care about the plot, then I won't. We'll just take a look at Gym 6 and 7 since they are literally right next to each other. Sir Chester's Ice Gym forces you to wander your way through a blizzard while falling deep into the chasm below with every wrong step. Remember, this is a place for children. Melania's ice types though aren't nearly as dangerous, and we let Hanzo take the lead here against her Frostmoth. Stealth rocks are fun to set up when you know every single one of the opposing Pokemon will be weak to it. Frostmoth does do decent damage with Bug Buzz because even though the move is resisted, Sudowoodo's stats are just abysmal. But a 4-time super effective Rock Slide crushes the Moth with ease anyway, so Galarian Darmanitan is a thing that exists for some reason, and he is as scary as he is scary looking. That is to say, not much at all. Well, at least not in this fight. It also falls to a single Rock Slide. Ice Cube might prove to be a bit of an issue with the Ice Face ability and the Hail being up. Whatever, the Ice Face breaks and doesn't get reset, so yeah, another Rock Slide is all we really need. Finally though, we are forced to switch out against the Gigantamaxing Lapras. Since water is scary, we bring in our own fishy power and let Bastion take the reins. With all of Lapras moves being resisted, we just sit there and spam Poison Jab until we eventually poison the damn thing, since it set up its own defensive screen, so we can't really break through to hit for decent damage anyway, so whatever. May as well rack up damage where we can. Eventually, Gigantamax fades, Lapras does get poisoned, and we win the war of attrition by swapping out to Ramatra to finish the fight with Freeze Dry. There is a hot fight after this gym, and it's probably the first one worth mentioning, to be honest. Even if all the mentioning I'll really do about it is pointing out how his team is coming along pretty nicely, actually. Dubwool is a stupid cool Pokemon. It's the first Pokemon I shiny hunted in this game just because I love the Black Wool shiny. But it's too bad it just can't do any damage to Hanzo. Inteleon is walled by Bastion, who takes it out with a couple poisonous jabs, and Pincurchin falls to Venture's Earthquake. Snorlax is kind enough to let Hitmonlee bulk up before knocking it out with Brick Break, and Venture comes in against Corviknight to fell the bird with a few Stone Edges. So, Spike Month is directly south. That's where the next gym is. Marnie's fandom is causing some trouble by locking out all incoming challengers, but that's alright, since Marnie herself leads us in through the back way after we beat her up in a dark alley. We take out the yelling grunts and fight our way to Piers, the coolest guy in the entire game. Like me, he refuses to Dynamax. It's against his religion or something. He's a dark type user though, and unfortunately, those are just never much of a problem. Genji makes for a strong lead, taking the expected fake out, and then flipping the tables by setting up Substitute while Scrafty tries to Sand Attack. The AI does love its status moves. Now Genji is free to bulk up, raising his defenses to take incoming hits. After a third bulk up, Scrafty does get off his one Sand Attack, so we bring the sub back up and start mowing down the opposition with Brick Break. An attack does miss against his Malamar, which leads to our substitute failing, but that's what it was there for in the first place. Gym 7 is completed. Immediately upon leaving the decrepit town, we're teased once more with a story that is happening right outside of our field of view, with Hop going so far as to show us an article on his phone for an event that literally could not have happened more than 30 seconds prior to our meeting. Like, we literally just saw Leon. so that's cool. I try my best to ignore it though as we push back into Hammerlock to take on the 8th and final gym. Let's just finish this and put the whole thing behind us, shall we? Unfortunately, Gym 8 is no pushover. The trial beforehand features 3 sets of double battles, and the gym leader fight is also, you guessed it, double battle. And even after we pushed through that, we almost immediately faced off against this region's version of the Pokemon League, so we're going to need to be prepared. But like I said earlier, this game really does give you everything you need to succeed. And not just in the wild area either. This guy next to the Pokemon Center, even in the same city, will just straight up give you a Focus Sash when you beat his Cottonee. But yeah, back in the wild area, we do find the Assault Vest, a bunch of other TMs, and yada yada, just all the stuff we possibly need. I didn't even end up using most of them. I just like to have the option. Oh well. While we're here, we may as well pick up a Delibird. In previous F-tier runs, I've banned the poor guy because he's just kind of useless entirely, but recently I've been forced to see him in a new light because after my most recent monotype run in Emerald, which you should definitely go check out if you haven't seen it already, he ended up beating the champions. So even if he doesn't put in any work for us today, I am proud and happy to add him to the team for at least one F-tier run. Welcome aboard, Winston. We also backtrack slightly to Route 9 on the hunt for a Pincurchin of our own, but actually end up finding a Cramorant first instead. Ah well, I can't complain too much. I do love the Cram, and we name her Widowmaker because she kind of like, you know, shoots fish. Anyway. So I kind of want to break down these gym fights at least a little bit, not because they were particularly difficult, but because I am rather proud of the strategies I put into them. So I get to be a nerd and talk about them for just a bit. The first challenge is a rain duo, so we're leading Hammond holding an Assault Vest and Ramatra with the Never Melt Ice. Freeze Dry and Wild Charge easily take out both the Sliggoo and Pelipper on the opposing side. The second fight is a Sun team, and while we get an unlucky burn on Hammond immediately, Earthquake still does great damage against both Turtonator and Ninetales, while not affecting Widow right beside him. And even with the Sun up, Scald is still a decent damage choice just to chip it in. Few turns of that, and we are through. Last fight is Hail, which has a Hakamo for some reason. Well, Genji's Blaze Kick one-shots a Bomb Snow, and Widow takes out the Dragon with a well-placed Air Slash. Alright, time for Raihan. The weather gym leader? Also, he's kind of a dragon guy. I mean, he's mostly a dragon guy, but he does use a lot of weather, and it's kind of, he's the selfie guy. He's a little confusing. The sand streaming Gigalith isn't much of an issue on its own, and neither is the Flygon, which falls to one of Ram's frosty attacks. Our other choice of lead is of course Genji, who can bulk up in the face of danger, while Gigalith lands a nasty body press into Ramatra, which brings him down to 1/3 of his health. Sandaconda is out next, so we take the opportunity to have Genji set up a substitute while switching Ram out for Widow. Glare then fails, hitting the substitute, and body press is resisted by Cramorant. All this culminates into Brick Break, bringing Gigalith down to 1 HP, and Surf finishing it off and dealing significant damage to Sandaconda in the process. Unfortunately, this does allow Sandaconda to successfully glare our Widowmaker, but since its only offensive moves are Earth Power and Fire Fang, it still doesn't pose any real threat to either of our Pokemon. Duraludon, however, is a different story. We switch out Widow for Hammond, while Raihan does his Gigantamaxing thing, relying on his resistance to take the expected Rock-type attack. Genji lands a Brick Break against Sandaconda, bringing the fight down to a 2v1. The most fair fight we've had against a Dynamax Pokemon yet. While a fighting move is still likely coming in for Hammond, Duraludon isn't that strong, and Hammond is bulky enough to take one hit, so rather than allow it to set up boost by risking switching, we eat the one attack, fire off a double hit of Earthquake and Brick Break, and fell the Skyscraper before it can do any further damage. Raihan is defeated for the first time in this run, and we have officially completed the gym circuit deathless. All 8 Galar region badges in hand, and that means we are invited to participate in the League Cup, a challenge that replaces the traditional Elite Four, putting us up against past rivals and gym leaders, all fighting for the chance to compete against the region champion, the unbeatable Leon. And we all know how I feel when something or someone is considered unbeatable. We take the train north, run through the snowy route, beat up a bunch of trainers that ironically have a lot of Pokemon weak to ice, and enter Windon. Windon? W-Y-N-D-O-N. Windon. One of the 3 Galar cities, along with Hammerlock and Motostoke, that I actually bothered to remember the name of, apparently. There's still quite a bit to do before the end of the game, unfortunately. 3 more rival fights, an Elite 3, and 2 evil boss fights, because isn't it weird that we haven't really had anything like those yet? I guess if you're comparing this to previous titles, then Team Yell is the evil team, and that makes Marnie the admin that you would fight now and then, but let's be real, they aren't evil, and they aren't even difficult. To be honest with you, they might still be tougher than Team Magma. Whoops. But there is actually an evil plot here, even if the game hasn't bothered to let us see it yet. So we'll get to that in a minute. Before then though, we have to craft a team, and that team needs to be very carefully built. I did consider how exactly I wanted to tackle this part of the endgame. It's not like going into a normal Elite Four, obviously. You don't enter this league and just do the 5 fights and call it a day. We have 9 major battles ahead of us and quite a few minion fights in between. So I have a few options. The game does let you change Pokemon between fights. Hell, it even straight up will let you leave the arena between rounds to go do whatever you want. Find items, relearn moves, catch new Pokemon, whatever. You have even more freedom here than you do in Scarlet and Violet, which did still let you change team members between Elite Four fights. Considering the exact structure of this endgame though, I totally see why. But just like in Scarlet and Violet, the best I can, I would want to craft one single team to take on the league in general, since I feel like that is the pinnacle of the challenge, trying to build the best singular team I can out of these terrible Pokemon to close out the game. But all things considered, I suppose it would be totally fair to allow me to change team members before the Champion Cup Finals, which is the technical Elite Four replacement. And I could use a different team for these semifinal rounds and plot battles before it, but that doesn't feel exactly right either. It's all the same tournament, you know? It's not the same as the disconnected boss fights from Scarlet that take place entirely separately from the league or from that storyline in general. I try to make a compromise. Right here, before even entering the first tournament rounds, I'm building one encompassing team for the entire endgame. Since we are entering one tournament, I'm gonna go ahead and grab our level cap off of the last round of that tournament, which is Raihan's fight at level 55. There are 2 fights after Raihan that will be above that level cap, but I feel like if we enter with this level cap, then we will have enough battles in between that we could feasibly be close to the level of those final fights. For the record, the champion fight is a whopping 10 levels higher than the level cap we are entering with, standing at level 65 while we are entering at 55. I feel like that's fair on the level cap side of things, but to be fair to the team, just due to the sheer number of battles ahead of us, if a Pokemon were to fall before reaching those final 5 fights, I will allow myself to find a replacement for it and still enter the quote-unquote Elite Four with a team of 6. Hopefully though, I won't have to do that because any new Pokemon entering our team will enter at the level cap of 55, and obviously all of the experience we're going to get in these matches is going to matter. But hey, this is the Champion Cup and there is no holding back. Cheese strats are absolutely on the table. I bet you thought I didn't know Thievul learns Baton Pass, didn't ya? And I never did outright ban Dynamaxing. We have to do a bit of backtracking just to pick up some extra TMs at some stores that I missed along the way, but otherwise, we are ready. This is gonna be a hell of a ride, so strap in. Your final F-tier team to complete Pokemon Shield, unless somebody dies along the way, whoops, is Unpheasant, Hitmonlee, Eldegoss, Stunfisk, Thievul, and Cramorant. No sane person would ever bring these to the final stretch of the game. Let's be real. Except maybe Eldegoss. She's awesome. Our first semifinals match is against Marnie. I know I didn't touch on her match as much, but that's largely because this is the only battle against her really worth mentioning at all. She always carries dark types, and there is a lot of overlap between her and her brother Piers, but she does carry a few unique Pokemon of her own that we will finally get to see here. She leads off with a Liepard, and we match her with Genji. Hitmonlee will be seeing a lot of use in the endgame here. Turns out, even if you don't really have the bulk or the moveset to be, you know, good, decent attack and speed will carry you pretty far. Protect will block the incoming fake out, and we substitute while Liepard cooks up a nasty plot. Now, Liepard Snarl will hit through substitute as it is a sound-based move, but even at +2, our resistance and surprisingly decent special defense will keep us in the fight. But we protect and heal back some HP with leftovers anyway. Torment can make things difficult for us, but a single Brick Break does take out Liepard even without any bulk ups. But because of the Torment, we are now forced to alternate moves, but let's be honest, that's probably a smart thing for us anyway. Bulk Up and Protect will raise our defense and keep our HP high, while Scrafty just kind of sits there unable to do much of anything against us. Eventually, we reach a +4 boost with Bulk Up to both our attack and our defense, and take out the Scrafty. Protect will alternate turns to keep our Clean Sweep intact while ignoring the effects of Torment, and a +4 Brick Break is enough to take out Toxicroak, Morpeko, and even Gigantamax Grimmsnarl. Our substitute will take the super effective G-Max move, so being slower than the Giant isn't an issue. First round complete. Hop is up next, and spoiler, he falls in much the same way. Turns out planning for 9 fights is a lot easier when one Pokemon can take on 2 rivals almost completely on its own. Bulk Up combined with Protect keep us up against double super effective Zen Headbutt, and 3 boosts later, we already have all the buffs we need. Brick Break one-shots Dubwool, Corviknight, and Snorlax. Pincurchin falls to Earthquake, which I only brought over Substitute because of the risk of static, which I found out mid-battle that Pincurchin actually doesn't get, which seems weird, but like, it's a prickly ball of electricity, but it doesn't have a chance to paralyze when you touch a spike? Whatever, it made sense when I was planning. Inteleon does get an attack off after Dynamaxing, but our defense boosts nullify the power of the Max Quake it tries to throw at us. Then it also falls to a single Brick Break. Poor Hop won't get the chance today to fight his brother because we are the ones aiming for champion status. Nothing is going to stop that. There is a small break between today's matches and the finals tomorrow, so that of course means that it's time for the plot that we have been missing all this time. Leon goes missing, the chairman's staff goes haywire, we have to track down the ugly son of a bitch holding an elevator key, then fight our way up the elevator with Hop until we reach the top. It's here that we face off against Oleana, Chairman Rose's second in command, and a real nasty piece of work. She's clearly hiding some kind of nefarious plot, but the game doesn't really give us anything to go off of other than the fact that Leon is missing and he has to be here somewhere. But she put us through all this trouble just for that, so I will take great pleasure in taking her down. She has the gall to lead off with a Frostlass, the ice type I wasn't allowed to use for myself. So we take advantage of that lead with a quick Blaze Kick KO, which hits straight through the double team. Ironically, our second Blaze Kick against Serena does miss, so I guess that's fair. Acrobatics almost takes us out, but Genji always lives one hit here, thank goodness. We do switch into Venture to take a resisted hit and start spamming Metal Claw, which gets hampered by Attract. So we bring in Sigma, take a Trop Kick, and easily trim the plant with Air Slash. Against Milotic, we switch out to Ana, and while the Serpent tries to set up with Aqua Ring and Safeguard and heals with Recover, there really isn't much it can do against the constant onslaught of Energy Balls to the face. Salazzle's in next, because of course it is, so we bring in Widowmaker, who unfortunately gets poisoned on the switch. Doesn't matter too much though, as we easily survive the boosted Venoshock and snag the kill in retaliation with a Scald. This brings in Oleana's last Pokemon, Garbodor, so we switch back to Venture while it Gigantamaxes. The expected Rock-type max move does almost no damage to us, so we're looking pretty good on that front. Now expecting a Quake, we bring in Sigma, and while we could swap back to Venture, Sigma does actually survive a Rockfall here, so we stay in just for chip damage. Again, this is still at the point that I would be allowing myself to swap out team members should they fall, so I was definitely playing riskier here around crits. Maybe just to give some more members a potential shot at the final team. But with the Gigantamax ended, we bring Venture back in, a little bit of Earthquaking later, we'll take out the trash. Garbodor Stomping Tantrum just isn't enough damage coming off of its poor attack stat to really threaten us even with a crit. So with Oleana defeated, we race forward to find Leon and Rose, and while Leon is definitely trying to be the reasonable adult in the room, Rose is just like clearly giving an evil monologue and nobody else really seems to notice. He does just let us leave to go have dinner though, so I guess that's cool. New day, new battles ahead. We've already completed 2 rival fights, but didn't I say there were 3? That's right, Bartholomew has shown up once again, dressed in pink and ready to, ink? No, that doesn't sound right. Anyway, he crashes the tournament because security here just seriously sucks and challenges us to a battle. We aren't really given a choice in the matter, so I guess it's showtime. The good news is, all of Bart's Pokemon have settled handily into the Fairy type, so we lead off with our Steel type Venture. We want to get off a Metal Claw here, since Earthquake doesn't quite get the KO after an Intimidate drop from his Mawile, and the little bit of extra damage will let us pick up the KO without forcing any healing. Gardevoir is in next, and it wants to get cheeky with Wish Healing and whatnot, but we can simply spam Metal Claw, occasionally boost our attack, and eventually take it out. Psychic just doesn't do enough damage to us. It's the exact same story with Rapidash too. Subconsciously, part of me was like, wait, will this have fire moves? But no, of course not. Moving on. Billy's Gigantamaxing Pokemon is none other than Hatterene, and this one actually does have a fire move. So we bring back in the Cram, Resonant Water type, while Hatterene goes for the move. The next turn we have to expect either a Psychic or Fairy move, which means Reaper is not a guaranteed safe switch. But we can bring in Ana, who is built with the bulk to take a hit, bait another fire move, switch back out to Widow, take a critical hit in the sun and live to tell the tale, and finally the Gigantamax runs out. Since Hatterene did end up going for a Psychic move while big, it also ended up setting the Psychic Terrain, boosting the power of its Psychic. So that means Psychic is far and away its highest damaging move, so we can predict that it is going for that while we swap in Reaper, who is immune to the move entirely. Parting Shot is one hell of a move. It will lower Hatterene offensive stats while we switch back to Ana, who can easily take the nerf Dazzling Gleam. Now switching to Reaper is probably a safe play even still, but I decided to test the waters and see what Sigma might be able to take. The good news is, after switching into the boosted Psychic, we watch the terrain disappear and can live the fight with Roost, so that's cool. But we ended up just bringing back in Reaper anyway. Hatterene tries to Calm Mind, so we just Parting Shot again, this time bringing in Venture. Things are getting a little scary though, as a second Calm Mind keeps Hatterene at even stats. I try to bring in Genji, knowing he'll take a Mystic Fire and hoping he'll bait a Psychic while we swap back to Reaper, but no shot. Don't really have much choice now. Dazzling Gleam is a roll to kill here, but we are still favored to live. So Reaper uses Snarl, lands a critical hit, blasting through Hatterene's defense buffs, lowering the Witch's special attack, and then survives the Dazzling Gleam with just 27 HP remaining. Now, finally, we should be in a winning position. We can't rely on a second critical hit, so Parting Shot will lower Hatterene's special attack a second time, bringing it finally into the negative, while still likely baiting Dazzling Gleam. This lets us bring in Venture, easily tank the Fairy attack, and outspeed the next turn with a strong Metal Claw, hitting physically to bypass the special defense buffs. Hatterene falls, no sacrifices necessary, just a lot of switching around. And so, finally, we are allowed to challenge the Elite Four. More or less. There are in fact 5 fights ahead of us, ending with the champion fight, so I suppose it's fair to say that it counts. The first few matches are against gym leaders we've beaten previously. They're back with a vengeance. First up, Nessa, and she is pissed. She leads off with a Glycopod this time, so we have to be careful to avoid the massive damage the thing can output. By leading off with Cramorant, we can avoid first impression damage and attempt to get a cheeky Scald Burn, but of course that doesn't work out for us. And Shadow Claw hurt, so we're forced to switch. We have a free switch to Sigma thanks to his Ghost immunity, but this just leads to Glycopod using Swords Dance. Uh-oh. Okay, just kidding. This is fine. Air Slash doesn't quite get the KO, but it does knock the bug down to about a third of his HP, which will activate its emergency exit ability and force it to switch before it can land any damage. This brings out Nessa's Barrascuda, which is scary because it's got Ice Fang, but like, it's not that scary. A crit still only does half to us, and we outspeed and land decent damage on the fish first. Next turn we can Roost, remove the Ice weakness, and are back for round 2 with Air Slash to knock the Barrascuda to red. Nessa goes for a full restore, and Sigma Roost once more. Back to square one. We repeat the song and dance until Sigma does eventually get the upper hand and Barrascuda falls. Against Sea King, we once again Roost up back to almost full, and the new fish just sets up an Aqua Ring anyway. A couple Air Slash flinches later, and that's Bird 2, fish is nothing. Pelipper is kind enough to set up the rain, letting Sigma now dish out 100% accurate hurricanes, but it also sets up Tailwind, and I really have to watch that because we can't afford for Nessa's Gigantamax Pokemon to be faster than us. So we're gonna have to wait that out with a bit of roosting. It's not exactly difficult though. Since Pelipper's only offensive moves are Water Pulse and Air Slash, we've got time. Eventually, we kill the bird, the Tailwind peters out, and out comes her final Pokemon, Dreadnought. It's a bit different this time, being able to reach its Gigantamax form that it didn't have access to the first time we fought Nessa, but our strategy isn't going to change from the original plan. By making sure the Tailwind petered out, we will always outspeed the Tortoise, and we also made sure to take a little bit of damage from Pelipper, meaning we are free and able to use Roost, lose our Flying typing, and then eat the incoming, now neutral, Max Rockfall. We have enough HP to repeat this 3 times, with Dreadnought actually going for Darkfall in the last turn instead of his Rock-type attack. But this allows Sigma to easily and successfully outlast the duration of Gigantamax. Now back to his normal form, we swap into Ana, take whatever he has to throw at us, and win the fight with a final Energy Ball. Alistair the Ghost Kid is up next, and well, let's just say the footage for his fight is about half the length of Nessa's. Duskmar is a physical attacker, and that means Genji's Bulk Up is back on the table. Hitmonlee's coverage is not great, but he does get Throat Chop, which is a physical Dark-type attack. And really, that's all we need. Bulk Up, Substitute, Bulk Up, all while Duskmar is stuck trying to lower our speed with a resisted Rock Tomb. And then Throat Chop can begin the sweep. Dusk and Chandelure fall back to back, though Shandy does destroy the sub in the process. Another sub goes up against Poltegeist, trying to predict a Nasty Plot or Protect, and then we go back and forth protecting for reasons. I mean, overall, this is probably better for me since Genji can get the healing he needs from leftovers now. A Nasty Plot boosted Shadow Ball does destroy our substitute, and a Throat Chop in return successfully spills the tea. It would be nice to get our sub up before Alistair's last Pokemon, and we should have a decent shot of doing so against Corsola, except instead of Strength Sap or Amnesia, it just goes for Hex right off the bat. And if it was already going for Hex the first turn, it just becomes less likely the lower my health goes for it to use anything else. So we just take it out with another Throat Chop. And we do that because Gengar can't take us out with any of its moves here. And since it Gigantamaxes, we aren't at risk of it putting us to sleep with Hypnosis either. Genji eats the Max Ooze and leaves the last ghost with another chopped throat. 2 down. Raihan is up next. The last fight in the finals tournament before the champion and the third member of the Elite Four, kind of. You'll see. He's also the one we based our initial level cap on. So long ago now at this point. We're not in his gym anymore, so we are fighting singles, which means his lead Torkoal sets up the sun all for himself. We lead with Widowmaker. Since Cramorant learns Rain Dance, she can shake her tail feathers to bring in the rain, forcing Torkoal to charge up its Solar Beam with an extra turn. And then a rain-boosted Scald will take out our second Tortoise for the day. And this is kinda how most of these one-on-ones with Raihan will go. Each of his Pokemon has a different weather, and combating that is really all you need to do. Goodra is up next, which brings the Rain Dance for itself, but since that's already set up by us, we know it'll just go for Thunder here. We can swap out to Venture, be immune to the move, and then switch to Anna to take a Surf, which may as well have done nothing to it as well. Now while Goodra spams Muddy Water, Anna can set up the Sun, force Goodra to use Rain Dance, we go for Pollen Puff. It's mostly just a lot of this. I do get a little feisty at one point, switching in Reaper to hit a Snarl and lower Goodra's special attack. But by that point, Goodra's special attack is so low, we just stay in, heal off any damage with leftovers, and snarl the dragon to death. Turtonator wants to set up the Sun one more time, so a quick parting shot will lower its offensive stats to bring back in our Widow, who of course puts back up the rain. Hurricane is 100% accurate, hits for massive damage, and confuses the turtle. Yes, this one is a turtle, not a tortoise. It sets up the Sun, then we set up the rain again, it hits itself in confusion, and Hurricane finally picks up the KO. Flygon, Sandstorm, doesn't really matter since Widow's one-shot Ice Beam is all we need. Duraludon is pretty much the same as last time. Expecting a rock type move, we bring in Venture, then a fighting move, so we bring back out Widow, then a rock move again, so we bring out Eol Fisk. With the Gigantamax run out, Venture can easily take a few body presses and gets the 2-hit KO with Earthquake. Now I mentioned how this is sort of an Elite 4, Elite 3, whatever, and the champion is next. But there is a fourth member to these final rounds that we need to take out before we are allowed to face Leon. Just as we walk back out to the pitch ready and raring to go against Leon, Chairman Rose rudely interrupts our match with the end of the world. Seriously, it's just so inconsiderate. So we do the only thing we can. Run back home, get lost in a forest for the third time this game, see a couple of cute dogs, give them a pet because they are good doggos, yes they are, pick up a rusty sword and shield because who doesn't love a good souvenir, then actually go where a massive explosion happened in the smack dab middle of the region, find Oleana, who has decided to stop being a pain in the ass and actually show us where to find Rose. Oh, and look, there he is. That's cool. He's giving one more evil villainous speech, something about the region running out of power, so he decided to just, I don't know, end it all, and then challenges us to a battle with the fate of the world hanging in the balance. As it usually does. We oblige because, to be honest, it's not like I have anything else going on right now. We let Sigma lead the charge because Chairman Rose is a notorious Steel-type user, and we are packing Heat Wave. His lead Escavalier does survive the hit, but a lucky burn on our end nerfs his physical damage. So we don't even need to worry about healing off the little damage he does before we two-shot it. Next up is Clink Clang, which may not actually be an electric type, but it does have wild charge, so we switch out to Venture. Earthquake is another two-shot for another KO. Ferrothorn in, bring back in Sigma, tank a Body Press and a Gyro Ball, and KO with some more hot waves. Really, these fights just boil down to switch in on an easy hit, make sure you can survive the second less easy hit, and always secure your two-shot. So honestly, I don't really have very clever commentary to share here because that is literally just the strategy. Case in point, switch back to Venture on Berserker, take an Iron Head, take a Screech, take a Throat Chop, KO with Earthquake. Ah, Caparaja, you deserve a Mega Evolution, buddy. I'm rooting for you in Legends ZA. It Gigantamaxes into whatever the fuck that is. So we bring in Widow since she's immune to the incoming Quake. Next is the Psychic type Mindstorm, so Reaper comes in, immune to that one too. Next up is either another Quake or whatever steel move it wants to use, so guess what? Parting shot, back out to Cram, immune again, goodbye Gigantamax. And since it can only ever Zen Headbutt Widow due to her typing, we are always free to switch to Reaper for more parting shots to continue to lower its offense. We do this 3 times before bringing in Adventure, who, thanks to some chip Scald damage from earlier, can easily get the KO with Earthquake while surviving Heavy Slam, and oh, we didn't even need to live the high horsepower because we outspeed. Cool. Rushing past Rose, we find Leon face to face with what I can only assume is a biblically accurate demon. Watch him fail to contain it in a Pokeball. Watch as the demon becomes a different, larger, and even more biblically accurate demon. Summon some dog spirits to help us out because that's a thing. And then contain the demon in a comically large Pokeball because demons are just not prepared for what modern technology has in store for them. And that means the day is saved. Rose will of course face no consequences for his actions because he's that rich. And we can finally move on to the champion fight. 3 rivals, an evil team admin, 3 gym leader rematches, the evil team leader, and 1 dragon demon later, all with the same team, mind you, and we are finally allowed to battle the champion for real, the unbeatable champion Leon. This is a hell of a fight. I'll tell you right now, we are completely outmatched. Leon's team is absolutely stacked. it still outlevels mine by quite a good bit. Dragapult outspeeds everything on my team, Cinderace and Charizard hit like freight trains colliding in the night, and even Haxorus is difficult to contain because of the coverage it carries. His only real exploitable mons are Seismitoad, which even then is extremely bulky unless you hit it with a grass move, and Aegislash. Fortunately for us, he leads off with the Aegislash, so we will absolutely take advantage of that. So for everything I've come across in my research, AI in this game just does not seem to like to switch. As long as it can do something, it will. And Aegislash can always do something thanks to the coverage of its moves coupled with King's Shield. And King's Shield, being a status move, is the kind of move that they love to use. So by exploiting all of these factors, we can lead with Reaper and immediately Parting Shot out. King's Shield does not block opposing status moves, so we can't fail it. Anna is equipped with Sing, which again is a status move and cannot be blocked. Even if it misses here, Anna has Regenerator and Reaper can switch in on sleeping turns to allow leftovers to heal him up. So losing health is actually totally okay. We just swap back to Reaper, Parting Shot back to Anna, Sing again as necessary, switch back, Parting Shot, you get the idea. We continue this until Aegislash is at -6 attack and special attack, and it stays asleep while Reaper is in. This allows Reaper to set up multiple agilities, a substitute, and then baton pass out to Genji the Hitmonlee. Having swept through the first 2 rival fights, he is back to make his presence known once again. With Protect and Substitute, we can position ourselves in a way that our health stays good while we set up multiple bulk ups. For the record, Sacred Sword isn't affected by our defense boosts, but it is affected by his attack drops. So none of Aegislash's moves can break our sub in one hit. Now we can get to +6 attack and defense, set up a new substitute, have our +4 speed thanks to Reaper, and now Throat Chop picks up the clean and easy one-hit KO. Now if you can do the basic math that I cannot, you'll see that Throat Chop is Genji's only offensive move for this battle. Had to be chosen very carefully because I needed a move that would hit at least neutrally across all of Leon's team. Fighting Stab is off the table because of Aegislash and Dragapult, obviously. Earthquake doesn't work because Charizard is immune, and well, Hitmonlee doesn't learn much else, let's be honest. But Throat Chop, thank God for Throat Chop. At +6 attack, every single member of Leon's team follows one right after the other until we reach his last Pokemon, Charizard. Oh, Charizard. He'd fall just the same as the rest, but they said this man was unbeatable. And I made a promise to somebody that I intend to keep. And look at this crowd, they deserve a show. What better a show to give them than the utter humiliation of their beloved champion, plus a giant middle finger to Pokemon for this game, the butchering of the region, and the Charizard propaganda they tried to shove down our throats to make us like it. Leon breaks out his Gigantamax Charizard and we let Genji sit there, resetting substitutes as Charizard breaks them over and over until Leon's tricks run out, the Lizard minimizes, and we allow a first death as Genji falls to Air Slash. Now this provides us with a free turn and we bring in the one and only, the dreaded Cramorant. All bets are off. Tricks are on the table. For the first time all game, we Dynamax. Our giant funky chicken easily withstands the incoming ancient power and fires off the incredibly powerful Max Geyser, barely misses the one shot, sets up the rain, and as Leon attempts to hold on to the little dignity he has left, he heals out of desperation, but a second rain boosted Geyser fells the dragon and Leon is defeated. It's a beautiful day for Rain. Player defeated. Pokemon Shield. All right, so full disclaimer, this run took me the most time of any before it to calculate and plan out, especially those last fights. That and being sick recently is kind of why this video is late. Whoops. But it was worth it. Thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it and hope you enjoyed. Feels so fitting to bring the F-Tier series full circle and end it the same month it started 1 whole year ago. 1 year, over 5,500 subscribers, and several 100,000 views later. I cannot thank you all enough. In fact, all I can do as thanks is to continue what I've been doing. Keep trying to improve and continue pushing out more content for you all to enjoy. So I hope that's enough to convince you to subscribe and stick around for what we've got coming out next. Anyway, too much rambling, I'm bad at that. So I will just have to leave that as another challenge complete, and that means I will have to catch y'all in the next run. See ya.